Well, hello and welcome again to another edition of Today's History, Upper Ohio Valley. And wow, do we have a surprise for you. Our favorite guest of all time is here right now.
Ho, ho, ho.
Who could that be?
Oh, it's
Welcome,
me, St.
Santa.
Nicholas. Good to see you.
Nice to see you again.
It's always a delight to be back in the Ohio Valley and in St. Clairsville and having a conversation with you.
And we're always happy to have you here.
Great.
It gives me a good feeling for that Christmas feeling.
Great.
Puts me in the spirit.
As I was coming into the studio, the weather has changed. There's a cold wind blowing, so there could be some snow later this evening.
Oh, wow. Let's hope the sleigh is ready. And
Sleigh's ready.
I'm glad. We needed to have all those toys in here. I have some questions that some children gave me to ask you.
Oh, sure.
So I'm going to run through the questions and you can answer them, and hopefully they're listening to what we're talking about. And the first one is, what do you enjoy most as a hobby?
Oh, my. I think walking on the beach is one of my favorite things. You know, Mrs. Claus and I go to the beach every spring and early summer. And this past year, we were at Folly Beach in Charleston, South Carolina, and Tybee Beach in Savannah. I really enjoy those historical cities, but I just love leisurely walking along, my toes in the sand, and no reindeer to pull or to prod, or, no elves in tow. Yeah. It's just me and Mrs. Claus.
Do you have a Santa Claus bathing suit?
Well, I do wear red Crocs, you see, and I have white swim trunks and a Hawaiian shirt with Santa images all over it, with me surfing and having fun in the water. And then, I have a wonderful red Panama hat that I wear.
Oh, wow. Sounds great. Sounds great. Now, another little guy wanted to know if you were real.
Well, I always get that question, of course, and I encourage people to tug on my beard, you see, and see if I have a little bit of a round belly, you see, and I give them a good ho, 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 just to let them know I'm as real as can be.
Well, I'm glad you do that, because kids do ask that question.
Yes.
What kind of candy or dessert do you prefer?
Well, Bob, I do love cookies, and my favorite cookie is oatmeal raisin, you see, and I really like that. But Mrs. Claus keeps me away from the cookies most of the year, except in December. She grants me the ability, and I gained about 50 pounds in one night on Christmas Eve, eating all those wonderful treats that the boys and girls and their parents leave me. So, I think I enjoy that. Oh, I do enjoy a nice piece of chocolate periodically.
Every once in a while.
Yeah.
What about, do kids ever pull your beard?
Well, Bob, just only when I encourage them to find out if I'm real. The people who pull my beard are those ladies 60 years of age and older. Because, I have helpers everywhere, and many of those helpers years and years ago, they did not have real beards. They wore those what were called theatrical beards, you see. Mm-hmm. So these older ladies, they just want to make sure that I am the real Santa Claus.
So you are the real Santa.
I am the real Santa Claus.
Well, I'm glad to hear that.
Yes.
Now, I like to read books.
You do? Okay.
Yes, and I ran into a little guy who loves books, and he wanted to know what your favorite book is.
Oh, my. Let's see. Of course, I do love that poem, "'Twas the Night Before Christmas." That is a great poem. There is a book called The Immortal Nicholas, and it is written by Glenn Beck, that political commentator, but this is a wonderful book. This is about the spirit of Christmas and all the activities through time. So that would be one of my favorite books. Any book about St. Nicholas and the history of Santa, I really enjoy.
Well, that's good. I think I like to read those Santa books too.
Yes, absolutely.
Have to do it every year. And what about your favorite holiday of all questions?
Oh, well, of course, Christmas is my favorite, but My second favorite might be St. Patrick's Day, you see. Uh, St. Nicholas, the first Santa Claus, and I am the sixth Santa Claus, you see. St. Nicholas was born on March 15th in the year 280 A.D. So we take the occasion every year, the elves and I, to get in the sleigh, and I put gold and green lights on it, and we go visit the elves' first cousins, the leprechauns. So we go to the leprechaun lair, and Lachlan is their head chief, and that's where that lake of gold is, you see. And so what happens, we go, and I bring 6 elves with me, and St. Patrick comes down from the heavens over that lake of gold, and we have a big feast, and we baptize those elves, and we baptize 12 leprechauns. So that's a special day. I get to wear a kilt.
Oh, wow.
I don't know if you've ever worn a kilt, Bob, but
No, I haven't.
they're very enjoyable to wear. You feel great comfort. No bulky suit, just a wonderful kilt and a wonderful green shirt, and I really enjoy that holiday.
Well, I'll bet you do. I've never worn one, so I have no idea.
It's a much better experience than I had anticipated it would
Well,
be.
that's good. The next one, I had a little guy who likes to visit fast food places
Yes.
and try everything he can find. So which one do you like the most?
Oh boy, I am fond of fish, you see. But so I really enjoy Arby's fish sandwich. You know, there's a fast food restaurant. But I'll tell you a story. I was in the St. Clairsville Parade this past Sunday, and I rode in on a fire truck, and that was great fun. But after that, I had a little bit of time. You know, I only ride the reindeer twice a year. So the 15th of December, we tested everything. The sleigh was good. Donner was a little slow on the takeoff, but everything was good. And then I fly it, of course, on Christmas Eve. So I'm in ground transportation. So I got a little hungry, and I stopped at McDonald's, of all places. And I ordered that special meal where you get chicken nuggets and hamburgers and fries and a drink. And I'm in line, I have paid, and in front of me is a Jeep from Kentucky. And on that back wheel is a beautiful Christmas tree. And out of that roof of that Jeep popped the Grinch. So I'm at McDonald's in St. Clairsville, Ohio. The Grinch is in front of me in the drive-thru, and I'm right behind. Those people at McDonald's were flabbergasted, I tell you.
Wow, that sounds like it was a good time.
It was very entertaining.
That's great. Now, the next one, I don't even know quite how to ask this question, but there's a little girl out there who wants to know what size shirt you wear.
Oh, well, let's see. Well, I have been different sizes through time. Mrs. Claus has slimmed me down a little bit here, so a double XL or with an 18 collared neck, and you know those generally fit pretty well.
Well, good.
I've never been asked that question before, Bob.
Neither have I.
Okay, well that's an interesting question.
It is. And by the way, another little girl wanted to know if Mrs. Claus ever got mad at you.
Oh, Mrs. Claus, mad at me. Being such a lovable, jolly character, you would think that would be impossible. Excuse me. But she says sometimes I may have left all the joy with the boys and girls, and when I come home, I'm a little grouchy. Can you believe that? I find that hard to believe, and she's told me just today that she's up there feeding the reindeer the magic oats and corn, and I'm down here having a good time. So I said, Mrs. Claus, somebody has to meet the boys and girls. So sometimes she does get a little perturbed with me, Bob.
Okay, well, that answers that question. This is another one from a little boy who had many, many questions, but I kept him down to one.
Oh, one. Okay.
And he said that if he had only one to ask, he was going to ask you, what do you tell the kids who tell lies?
Oh, well, the one of the worst things that little children can do is fight with their brothers or sisters, misbehave, talk back to their parents, or not listening. But telling lies is up there, pretty high. And so I tell them that the truth is always the best policy. Even sometimes telling the truth might hurt just a little bit. But, It always is better than telling a lie because, Bob, if you tell one lie, you have to tell 10 more just to keep that one lie
Yeah,
available to be true, you see.
yeah. I think I know the feeling of that.
You know that feeling.
I've
Okay.
seen it.
All right.
I've got so many questions that the kids have asked.
Well, I've had a few interesting questions.
Why don't you
this
do
year.
that, and then I'll come back to
Oh,
mine.
all right. Well, I did have a little girl ask me, how did I meet Mrs. Claus? So I said, well, the first workshop was in Finland. And so we had a nice workshop and walls, but our gate had open spaces you could see through. And I saw this beautiful woman walk by every day for about 30 days on her way to work. And I thought, well, I think I'm going to make that woman my wife. That was Mrs. Claus.
Wow.
So it all happened in Finland. Now, she is a good bit younger than me. I mean, she's only 400 years old, and I'm 559. So some folks have said I have robbed the cradle, if you will, because I married a younger woman. So, and I've had boys and girls ask me if I have children this year for the first time. And I do. I have 3 children. Sarah and Rachel and Brian, and one lives in Michigan, and one lives in this area, strangely enough, and then one lives in Louisville, Kentucky, and I just had a new grandson,
Wow.
little Bo Alexander Benge, and he lives in Louisville, and I visited in my Santa suit. It was a great thrill to everybody in the hospital.
That's great.
Yes.
That is great. Now, that's funny that you asked that about your children, because I had one question are the elves your children?
No, the elves are not my children. I'm oftentimes referred to as the jolly old elf, but I think that's because I'm the leader of the elves. And we have some elfin elders. Somebody did ask me, why do some elves have pointy ears and others have rounded ears? And I said, well, some elves, lived in Finland. Some came to me in Greenland because we went there next, and then to the North Pole. So there's different tribes or groups of elves, and they're all a little different. Some are the short elves, some are the medium-sized, some are the tall, and some are the really tall, 5'11" elves.
Wow, that's a big elf.
Well, somebody has to take care of those reindeer, and then there's some big toys, so we have to get somebody to work on them from up high.
Oh, well, that makes sense. What about vacations? I had another question about what was your favorite vacation?
Well, we love going to the beach, but I have to tell you, there is a mountain pass in Montana called the Beartooth Pass. Now, snow covers that pass from September through June. But Mrs. Claus and I sometimes visit when all the snow is melted. It is probably one of the most beautiful spots on earth. So we enjoy going up there. As a matter of fact, Bob, we ride a 3-wheeler motorcycle up that pathway because it's twisty and turny. But it's an enjoyable visit. But we love the beach most of all.
That sounds like a lot of fun.
It is.
And now another one, this was from another little girl, and she was very excited about wanting to ask this, but she wanted to know if the reindeer ever got lost on Christmas Eve.
Now, we have very sophisticated GPS devices, you see, so no lost houses. I have 326 elves, Bob, that are in charge all times of people moving, because a lot of people move in the countries, and so about 20% of the population goes to a new house. But they're always checking to see who's in the respective houses.
Who's where they are.
We never lose our way.
Wow, that's pretty interesting. I didn't know that.
Oh, and by the way, probably one of the other reasons we never lose our way, and people don't often know this, but all of the reindeer that I fly on Christmas Eve are girls.
Oh, wow.
And you see, women have a different sense of direction than men, and they're liable to go ahead and look at all of the maps and everything just to make sure we're going in the right way. And the reason they're all girls is that the male reindeer lose their antlers in the first or the last 2 weeks of November and the first week of December.
Oh.
People are surprised
Yeah,
when
I'm
I tell
surprised.
them they're all girls.
I'm surprised. I really
Yeah,
am.
the boys and girls I visit every year are shocked. They're just, they're almost staring ahead and wondering, could this be true? Could this be true? And it is
Yeah.
true.
It is true. That is really fascinating. Now, you know that a lot of kids get sick when they're driving in a car.
Yes.
Somebody wanted to know is do the elves and reindeer?
Oh, I think that's one of the elves calling now,
that might
Bob.
Be. That might be. Let's see.
I think. That might be my
is.
head elf. Let's see. So,
I think
it might be an emergency at the North Pole. I don't
No,
know.
it said he was just wanted to ask a question about that question I just asked.
All right. Okay. All right. Well, that's the same
He
sound
wants
we
to
use
hear
for an
who got
emergency.
sick on.
I get sick flying on the sleigh. Is that the question?
No, the question is, do the elves or reindeer get sick?
No, never get sick. It's because those magic oats and corn that Mrs. Claus feeds them have a calming effect on their stomach, so they can go quickly in the air. And the elves, they love peppermint and candy canes, so that seems to calm their stomach. Now,
that keeps them.
there have been a time or two where they've kind of almost made Santa a little sick because they go up so quickly, but we've never had any accidents of that type on the sleigh.
Well, I'm glad to hear that. Now, I also know that a lot of kids like to make a snowman and call him Frosty.
Yes.
And so one of our little viewers was asking me if you knew Frosty.
Well, truth be told, Frosty melts. He has melted many times before I've gotten really acquainted with Frosty. I know a lot about his hat. That magical hat that he has. Actually, what we do is we get our magic from the Aurora Borealis, the Northern Lights. The North Pole is the closest landmass to the lights, you see. And so we gather that magnetic energy from the sun and we make a pathway around the Earth, a portal. And so we give some of that magic to Frosty that we have saved so he can frolic.
That's where he got
for a little bit of time.
That's where he got all of that magic.
Yes.
I never knew that.
Oh, now you know.
Now I know. Now another little boy asked me about Jesus, and he wanted to know if you knew Jesus.
Well, I know that the great Creator delivered Jesus as a gift. And I asked the boys and girls why we celebrate Christmas. And many of them say Jesus, and Jesus was a great gift. And then I asked the boys and girls who sings, who dances, who is an artist, who plays a musical instrument, who plays sports. I say those are all gifts. So the importance of Christmas is gift giving, not gift receiving. So Jesus was the greatest gift. The great Creator has control of that. I'm a toy maker. So I really don't know all the mystical figures generally. Mm-hmm. I know the folks who work with me. But I asked the boys and girls to share their gifts. It's about giving and not receiving. And they seem to understand that.
I think that's a good thing to have happen.
Yes, absolutely.
That's really nice. Another one's more to do with what's going on today in the regular news cycles and all that. And I had a little boy wanted to know if you have ever met and know the president.
Well, I've known many presidents through time.
They're talking about the President-elect
Donald Trump. Well, I knew him when he was a little boy, and he was always a bright little boy. And, his dad kept him under control, and I'm hopeful that he'll do a good job. I knew President Lincoln. President Lincoln used to send me notes so I could visit his troops when they were having a hard time. I remember one time specifically, it was December 6th, 1862. It was the Civil War, and they had been beaten badly in the Second Battle of Bull Run and the 7-Day Battle, and their morale was low, so he asked me to come and visit them. So I pulled up with the reindeer and the sleigh, and I brought them woolen socks and Worsham pipes and tobacco and jack-in-the-boxes for the drummer boys. So I've known each president through the years. Now, some are big believers in Santa Claus and the spirit of Christmas. Some not so much. So I don't really want to call out any names, but I am very hopeful for the future with the president-elect, Mr. Trump.
Well, thank you. I think that answers that question. And the other one, you already mentioned a couple of times, your age. And
Yes.
some people don't like to hear somebody ask them their age, but I do have a little girl who wants to know, how old are you?
559 years old.
559 years
And
old.
Mrs. Claus gets a lot of credit. I sometimes don't listen to her, but she's been feeding me these orange and green vegetables for years and years and years, and I've become healthier through time. And she's hopeful I'll live another, 331 more years. So. But yes, and my birthday is December 27th. I was supposed to be born on Christmas Day, but didn't quite make it. So, and we never know. I'm the sixth Santa. We never know how we're going to become Santa or how long we're going to be here. We're really not in charge. We just ride along with the reindeer and enjoy the journey.
Enjoy the trip.
Yes.
Well, that's really great. Do you have anything else you can tell our children here?
Well, I guess just this. St. Nicholas was the first Santa Claus. And so he would bring things to people that they needed. If you were hungry and he found out, he would bring you oranges or grapes or nuts. If you needed to heat your home, and they didn't have glass windows in those days, and so you needed some wood or some charcoal to heat your home, and he would toss some money into the window so you could do that. You see, St. Nicholas brought people things that they needed. And I still do that, and all the Santas through time have done that as well. We bring people what you need. So you may not, boys and girls, get all of the gifts that you are interested in. I may be bringing your family something they need.
Well, that's nice. So if they won't be too disappointed if they don't get exactly what they
but
need.
you understand. I did have some boys and girls not receive any gifts a few years ago during the COVID epidemic, and I brought that family money so they could put gas in their car, heat their home, and buy groceries. Well, that little boy didn't understand until I had a one-to-one conversation with him. And then he understood, and he was appreciative that his family was no longer hungry and they were safe, and his dad could get a job.
Well, that was wonderful.
It was. He was very nice. And when I visit boys and girls in schools around here, and I tell that St. Nicholas story, they seem to understand very well that particular spirit. So I'm encouraged. Oh, I wanted to tell you, last year, as I visited this area, and this year as well, I have taken pictures with more little babies 6 months and under than my previous 8 years of visits to this area.
Wow.
I don't know why, but there are a lot of babies being born here in the Ohio Valley.
Well, isn't that wonderful?
It is, because we have to have young ones to take care of the older ones, and we have to have young people to bring presents to.
Well, that's true. What would we be if we couldn't bring presents to kids?
Well, gifts of all kinds.
That would not be good.
Yes, yes.
Well, thank you very much, Santa.
Well, you are welcome.
This was a wonderful conversation.
Nice with you. You always look so sharp down to those shine shoes. I think maybe I need to get some polish on mine. I've been scuffing around in the fields and everywhere, bringing things to people.
Yeah, well, that happens. I stay out of that stuff.
All right, well, do this with me. On the count of three, Bob, I want to hear a ho, ho, ho.
All right.
1, 2, 3.
Ho, ho, ho.
And Merry Christmas, everybody.
And thanks for joining us.
You're so welcome.